Welcome back to Evolve Point, a Shadowverse podcast. I'm your host, Ignideus, with my co-hosts, Kaelan and SuchPettanko.
Do we do that thing that podcast people do where to synchronize each other, we do the clap?
No, you don't have to do that because you're not recording. I'm the only one recording.
What if I want to clap? Because it's the first Evolve Point episode in a while.
It's the first Evolve Point episode in like a year and a half. If you guys didn't know who we are, I make Shadowverse videos, Tanko streams Portalcraft, and Kaelan moderates the Reddit for Shadowverse. So 3 most qualified people of all time. Now that we have Tanko on, we can actually cover the Shadowverse anime because he's the only one who watches it. Unfortunately, the anime is on break right now, so never mind. Once it comes back, Tanko can share with us every week what happened on the anime that week.
But that would be spoilers.
That's okay. We'll have timestamps. That's a good segue to say that we do have timestamps in the description if you guys want to jump around to different topics. The way the podcast is going to work is that it's split into essentially 4 segments. The introduction, where we just talk about what we've been up to the past week. News, the week's main topic, and then the question of the week, which is when we read your responses to the question of the week. So what have you been up to this past week, related and unrelated to the game?
Past week, definitely the Grand Prix. Been having an absolutely miserable time with it.
You've been playing only Dragon, I've been seeing, Kaelan.
Yes, I started out with Buff Dragon and then I moved to Gambling Dragon. I love Gambling Dragon, but I am not winning with it.
I just barely got into Group A today. I've been trying to play Forestcraft because Portalcraft has been the stinkiest ever. I was playing Castel at first. Castel's a really good deck, but it takes so much effort. And then I watched your Enhanced Portal stream. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try Enhanced Portal, and then I qualified. The only reason why I qualified, though, was because I fought against other bad Castel players, such as myself, that didn't get their pieces or misplayed.
This current format I feel like is actually very skill testing because a lot of the best decks are incredibly hard to play. Castel, Control, Maga Chio, Reanimate Shadow. The only one that's good, that's easy to play, is Big Dragon.
Big Dragon!
What people are gravitating towards.
That's the exact reason why Big Dragon is so popular. It's just because it's so easy to play.
It's like brainless to play, but yeah.
It is brainless and it is fun.
It is pretty easy to just like vibe out playing Big Dragon and just not think about anything. Just empty thoughts. The only thing, like, the thought bubble comes out of your head and it's just like a picture of like a quesadilla, and that's what's going through your mind as you're playing Big Dragon. Yeah, my Grand Prix experience is weird because I lost with all the meta decks I tried to bring, and then I played my Control Forest deck and I instantly qualified with that, and then I played Enhanced Portal and qualified with that too. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I have an affinity for decks that nobody else is playing. But
I've been having a rough go of it, but I managed to get a 5-0 with Gambling Dragon. Went up against a lot of dragons and got to 10 first, which is simply how you win with that deck.
Yeah, that's true. Did you guys do anything unrelated to the game this week?
I've been playing Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk, and that is one hell of a DLC.
What about you, Tanko?
I reinstalled Blue Archive.
Oh my god, you poor thing.
I'm moving houses, so that's been a whole thing. And I still have to find out how to stream and make videos while doing that, so I'm tired. And then I decided to put this podcast back up. Why'd I do that? Am I stupid?
Yeah, why'd you do that?
It's like you started the podcast again.
Well, there is a reason why I started it back up. It's because Worlds Beyond is coming out, and I realized that there's no one-stop shop for people to come in and get an update real quick of everything that happened in Shadowverse the past week. And especially now that there's a whole new game coming, and soon we'll have 2 games worth of news to keep up with, thought it'd be a good idea to just have one place for everybody to just come in, tune in real quick, get everything they need, and then get out. Let's get into the news. We were talking about the Grand Prix just now, but yes, the Resurgent Rotation Cup finals are on soon, ending noon on the 18th Pacific time with Rafflesia Evolved cosmetic rewards, and we just talked about our experience with it, so I guess we don't have to get into that. The second topic, Tanko, I don't know if you know this, but they just patched one of the best portal cards in the game, Hall of Monoliths.
I thought it was a rune card.
Apparently it didn't give rush when it was played on a full board, so the effect of Hall of Monoliths is that it pulls 2 cost or lower portal followers from your deck into play and then gives all your followers rush. Turns out when you played it on a full board and it didn't pull anything out, it didn't give the board rush, so they put on a 30-minute maintenance for that. I checked because I was really worried that they would take away the Vile bonus for the recently nerfed Arcade Instruction and Ginger Raging Word because of it's a new patch technically. Thankfully they did not, so the Vile bonus is still there.
Who was a poor sap that tried to play Hall of Monoliths just to get rushed? Like, What kind of position do you have to be stuck with that as your only option?
I know, right? This reminds me of that previous patch where they had to rewrite the wording on Tortured Soul because it wasn't accurate to the actual effect. And it's like so obviously not accurate to the actual effect, but it only took them so long because I guess nobody noticed until somebody tried to play it. That's my speculation anyway.
You gotta say it's impressive that there are so little cards that get printed that have bugs in them.
Yeah.
There's less than one in expansion.
And it's Hall of Monoliths this time. And I actually made a deck featuring Hall of Monoliths very recently. It's not very good. I got inspired by seeing somebody in Tanko's chat actually go like, hey, you can use Hall of Monoliths to pull Radiance. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Based off that one comment in Tanko's chat, I built the entire deck.
Isn't Monolith different names though?
Yeah,
so you get one, I guess.
It pulls Anthanita and Radiant, and then you clone Blazing Barrage. So good.
That's crazy. So you can get a 5 play point artifact as a 4 play point spell. That's insane.
So good.
Wait, so it pulls different names. That's not on the card text.
It does. It pulls different names.
It is.
It says different random portal craft followers. Okay.
This guy.
I expected a line that would say something along the lines of with different names.
It says different on it.
Yeah, but that's different.
That's different.
You know I can't read.
Also, another update to the game is that they added some new tournament-winning decks to the tournament-winning decks screen. Basically, it's an in-game net decking feature. So let's talk about the archetypes that were featured. In Forest, we got Magachio and Castel. That seems consistent with what I've been seeing. Control Forest is fun, but it's very hard, and the other decks are as good and less hard. So that makes a lot of sense to me, especially Magachio is seeing a huge rise again. Also incorporating Babs to make sure that they have the OTK every single time. With Sword, we have Loot and Rally. I don't know about that. Like, Rally is good on ladder, and Loot seems okay in tournament, but it honestly doesn't seem that good to me. I don't know if you've actually fought much Loot at all.
I mean, Loot still works.
I really felt the loss of Opulent, though. I'm like, no Evo recovery, no board clear. Like, it hurts to lose that. It's in a worse place than it seems, because Loot is fine, but it feels so much worse than it used to. It feels like it took a huge fall.
I think the reason why Loot is pretty good again now, I guess, at least for tournaments, is that there are slower decks now that get punished by a pretty easy turn 7 OTK.
But I think it's also bad into Big Dragon, because if you get Dormant Dragon up, you have the untargetable ward, so then your Barbaros can't go face, and like that's a huge deal.
Big Dragon has the gamble for that. They have to have the skill to get all the stuff and the heals and the wards.
Speaking of Big Dragon, it is the only deck featured this time around, because I mean that makes sense. There's not really anything else people are playing. Buff is kind of around on ladder, but Big is just so much better in general and so much easier to play, frankly. I was surprised because I thought it would for sure be popular on ladder, but the fact that it's super popular in tournaments as well is disgusting, in my opinion.
From my experience, a good buff player will actually beat Big Dragon, but Big Dragon is so much better of a deck, and it's much more refreshing to play a traditional classic dragon deck other than something like buff or discard or some of the archetypes that have been printed over the years.
I would love Big Dragon if it wasn't for Relic Dragon, which just makes the deck a gambling deck. I freaking hate Relic Dragon.
Relic Dragon is a degen into Vor every single time.
Yeah, that's, dude, when I was, okay, we'll talk about this later when we talk about Rage, actually. I'll talk about my experience with that, but yeah. Ruin actually had 3 different decks on the tournament winning deck screen. Mysteria, Sephi, and Golem Boost, which are all not that good. So, but, you know, they're there.
Not anymore.
Yeah, Mysteria got absolutely smited down from the heavens, right?
Rightfully.
It's like these deck lists reflect what was represented just in general in the tournament, but not exactly how strong they might necessarily be. We'll see what I mean by this by Portalcraft.
That's true. Just because there's a lot of decks on the tournament winning deck screen doesn't mean, oh, that class has 3 equally good decks in this format. No. Shadow, this is before the rise of Reanimate, I suppose, when they added these decks, because it only has last words. But if it was after the recent rise of Reanimate, I'm sure Reanimate would be on there. And then with Blood, we have Aggro Blood, which is the only playable Blood deck. Sorry, under 10 bros, but it is what it is.
Under 10 representation. But you combine it with the Evo package, and it's so much more something.
I've talked about this before, where it's like Evo Blood lost Tavali, and to replace Tavali, you now have to get rid of your entire deck, and that's so depressing. Haven, we got Amulet and Heal, which is nice.
I wouldn't consider Heal Haven nice.
I mean, it's objectively pretty good, though, Kaelan. People are playing it. It's a deck that's still very much on the radar. You just play ambushes into John, and you're feeling good about that.
Might be the only deck that didn't lose a lot from Celestial Dragonblade.
No, exactly. And Amulet is the new deck that uses the Seraphs and the Unariels to OTK. It was good against Mysteria because they didn't play any bodies, but now it's sort of fallen off in favor of Heal now that Mysteria is gone. Now, Tanko, tell me about this last one here. Machina, Artifact, and Evolve Evolve, all 3 represented for Portalcraft. How do you feel about that?
All 3 fake. Portalcraft is the fakest class right now. I mean, Machina is okay, but it's just okay. Whereas Artifact, the engine works, but it doesn't push out enough damage. And Evolve, you only really get Shins active on turn like 7, and then you have to wait till next turn to maybe win, assuming you even have a decent hand to follow up with.
I think the loss of Sweeper Doll in Evolve means that you actually have to play cards or like lose real cards to fuse into Robotic Arm Rescue, or you can't just have infinite puppet value. You lose so much hand.
Yeah, you lose so much advantage now. You have Anti to copy your fusions or whatever. You can copy Alice, but like that only really takes you so far.
When I tried playing Evolve, I copied my fusion guy with Antonita, and then I realized my hand was too empty anyway that I had to fuse my fusion guy into my other fusion guy.
Yeah, you have to cannibalize them.
It feels so bad. I think, yeah, you're right. Artifact, when it high rolls, it's like amazing, but like it's so rare that happens. It's good.
No, even when Artifact high rolls, it still gets blocked by the 6 effects restriction. You can only really go so far.
I would say that when it high rolls, it does the same thing as other decks do, which is good, but not like, why are you working so hard?
Yeah, it's like almost on par with what other decks can accomplish.
And then, like you said, Machina, it's fine, but one thing I don't like about Machina is that it's so predictable what your play patterns are, especially in tournaments, that people can easily play around it. They can transform your academic guys. They can play a Lily before your Gratina turn. Like, they're so easy.
They can try to board lock you, and you won't have Puppet Workout to punish them. You can play Eon to play around the board lock, destroy your own guys, but like, who cares? Come on, dude.
The final news topic is that Shadowverse Rage Spring 2024 Day 1 just happened this past weekend. Rage is finally open to non-Japanese players, open internationally. Anybody can sign up as long as they have a valid passport, because after Day 1, there's Day 2 on the 21st of January, and then Grand Finals on the 24th of March is actually in person in Japan. So that's why you need a valid passport, because you're going to have to travel to Japan to actually be able to compete in finals if you make it that far. I actually did play last weekend. It was my first ever major, and I want to talk about how that went for me. I had a lot of fun, I will say, but I did lose. Basically, how it works is that there's 6 rounds in Day 1, and if you are able to make it 5 wins out of 6, you are qualified for Day 2. I won my first round, and then in the next 2 rounds, I got freaking destroyed by Big Dragon. I drowned in pools that way. And I'll tell you right now that the enemies that I face, I don't want to sound like I'm a salty Sandy, but he got degenerate into degenerate into degenerate into Venema on turn like 6 or 7, and I was like, what am I supposed to do against
Dragon Main got punished by Dragoncraft.
I know, and it's so tragic because I didn't bring Dragon to the tournament because I didn't
that was your mistake.
Yes, I didn't trust my high rolls, man. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to beat the other protagonist, man, but I should have just loaded it up with the hero leader and went to town, man.
Your Dragon Oracle, you would have won.
All art arts are banned because they want to keep it a pure experience. I think it's like broadcasting rights. So if they want to broadcast the games, and then like you have a Spy Family art and they don't have the permission for that or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I prepped maybe a day or 2 before. I couldn't prep that much because I was moving house and making content and stuff. I knew that I was bringing Control Forest, and initially I wanted to bring Reanimate Shadow as well because those are the only 2 decks that sparked joy in me recently. If I didn't bring those, I probably wouldn't have played the game at all. But a day or 2 before, the JCG came out and there was a lot of Heal Haven. So suddenly I was panicking, like, how do I answer the ambushes, right? And then the day after that, I decided to swap Helio Shadow, Reanimate Shadow for Golem Boost because I practiced the Helio Mirror, and at risk of demonetizing this podcast, it made me want to shoot myself in the head with a gun. So I decided not to bring Helio, and I decided to bring Golem Boost instead. And that was a huge mistake because 1, I overestimated Haven, and 2, I thought there was going to be a lot of Reanimate, and there was a lot of Reanimate, but I lost the gacha because I didn't face any Haven except for my first round, which I won. Thankfully, that prep went well, but I didn't face any Reanimate Helio at all, and I just fought Dragon instead, and I'm like, this is so unlucky, man. I rolled bad on the gacha.
This happens all the time in big scale tournaments because I participate in a couple like Qualified Vanguard tournaments, like regionals too.
Right.
You're always like hyper fixated. You focus on these specific matchups, and then the only thing you see in your matches is the stuff that's like, why do I have to do this? Why am I losing to this?
For me, it was Magachia Magachio. I fought a lot of Magachio, and I fought a lot of Big Dragon. And you know, fair enough, Big Dragon I should have been more prepared for, but I feel like it's kind of hard to prepare for that because it's all high roll. And Magachio I should have been more prepared for as well, I suppose. But I really did not expect there to be no reanimate in my pools. But you know, I had a good time. I think my play personally was pretty good, so I'm not too disappointed in myself. Preparing for anything in this meta is crazy because there's like 12,000 viable decks. As long as you're not Portalcraft.
Yeah.
Other than that, every class seems viable and every class has a viable deck. So I was like, it's hard to prepare for the whole wide range of what the meta has in offer. I'm happy with it. It was fun, and I'm definitely going to participate in summer because it was a good experience. And I have nothing else to do. There's no SVO going on, so like I might as well.
Maybe reanimate is still too new because I've only fought against a couple of reanimates myself. Most of them were really, really bad.
Reanimate is like a really high skill ceiling deck. That's probably why people on ladder aren't the best at it. But in tournament, like if you watch the Rage broadcast from the last weekend, when it was getting to the last few rounds, there were a lot of reanimate players. You know, the best players made it through.
I'm just so glad that in a world where Grave Void Knight is now a meta card, Draziel and Venomoth exist.
Well, the Adjudicator is not usually played for the body, but Venomoth is good. Venomoth is good against everything. That card is just a good card these days.
Now. It wasn't when it was printed.
Right.
The few reanimate players I've seen, that's actually why they lose so badly, is because I see so many try to do the Void Knight Transmute just because, and then they have nothing else to do after that.
It's a cute play, but don't do that most of the time. Most of the time, just go for Gilgamesh, man. Don't be a hero. Well, that's my Rage Spring Day 1 experience. After hearing that, do you guys have any thoughts? Like, do you want to participate in Rage 2 one day?
No, I'm very timid.
No, I don't have a passport.
This is post-editing Igni. With one more piece of news, there was also a JCG Shadowverse Open tournament at the same time as Rage, so there were less people playing, but still around 200 players. Castel Forest Craft and Reanimate Shadowcraft won. Two of the best decks in the meta for sure, so no surprises there. All right, moving on to the main topic. This is what I wanted to talk to you guys about because I was wondering this and I tweeted about it as well. The Mysteria nerf. Did it go too far?
Not far enough.
Okay, we got some pretty hot takes here. Tonka, what do you think?
Well, I did fight one single Mysteria player the other day, I think. They still got Ana OTK anyway. I think the only reason why I actually lost that was because he actually opened 2 copies of the Miranda spell and was still able to overwhelm me with board anyway.
What deck were you playing?
Don't worry about it.
No, we gotta know for the full context. What deck were you playing there, Tonko?
It might have been the Enhanced Artifact Hybrid. It was either that or a regular enhance. It was some kind of enhance, which obviously that was an instant L walking into the game.
Because that explains a lot, I think.
Yeah.
But basically the reason I wanted to bring this up, because after the nerf, there's almost been zero representation competitively. Like once in a while, you'll see like one Mysteria top 16. The experience on ladder is that I've seen basically none. Maybe 1 or 2, but basically none.
Yeah, that one scuffed Enhanced Artifact Hybrid matchup. That was the only Mysteria I've seen this entire time, I think.
Kaelan?
I don't actually think the nerfs went too far. I mean, far enough. I think it was just about right. I'm still seeing the deck, and I'm still losing to the deck, but I'm playing Big Dragon. At the start of the expansion, I got driven out of rotation and just played unlimited for the entire chest event. Mysteria was that toxic.
Right, like even though like data-wise, Mysteria has dropped to like so low, but like emotionally you're happy about that because it did ruin your experience for like a few weeks there. So
yeah, for 2 weeks, it just... I did not play rotation when I wanted to.
Do you think the nerf and the outcome matched your expectations of what would happen?
I completely expected Hannah to be the problem card.
Yeah, I thought they would just hit one card and that's it. But killing both the Miranda spell and Ginger, I think was the right call because they didn't kill the Hana ODK necessarily. The deck is completely gone though. I still haven't seen it personally. And yeah, you can still do Hana ODK, but like, is it really worth it though?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tonko, that like, I think the right call was not to nerf Hannah in the end because like you still want the end game to be viable. And I did know that the nerfs would affect the deck quite a lot because like not having a tempo 1 spell, you increase the cost of your tempo 1 spell by 100%. That's a big deal. And you increase the cost of the Ginger token spell by infinity%. That's a big deal, right? But I did not expect it to affect it this much, to see basically 0.
I think this might be the hardest they've nerfed a single deck in one patch in a long time.
Okay, a long time, sure, but you weren't here for,
I didn't finish my
some of the older days.
Because the hardest, I think the hardest they've ever hit deck ever was Rebirth of Glory Vengeance, right?
Yeah, that destroyed that deck. That was crazy. That was like a tactical nuke from orbit, making
Yeah.
a 2 cost into a 6 cost. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
that was like the biggest nerf ever made.
And
but-
they've never reverted that nerf ever.
If the goal was to reduce the play rate of Mysteria without nuking it as hard as this nerf did, what alternatives would you guys like propose?
I don't think they need to change the deck. It definitely reduced in its play rate, but that was simultaneously because the deck itself got a little bit worse, but everything else in the metagame stopped getting choked out and rose up, dragging the play rate down even further, balancing Mysteria with now a dozen decks, which I think is far more healthier.
You think that it's totally fine as is and it should be this way?
It should be this way.
All right. Well, there you go. Tonko, do you have any ideas of like anything you would have done differently?
I kind of like Mysteria. Okay, maybe not this variant. I like Mysteria as an archetype, so as a theme.
I like that we
I
have
like Mysteria
two
as a
widely
theme.
different opinions here. You guys are going to get to a fist fight soon.
I don't much care for the turn 6 Hana OTK. I don't care for the turn 4 full board, but I do kind of wish Mysteria was still at least playable. Personally, I thought they were going to bring back the Miranda nerf, bring her back to 7 cost. I didn't think they were going to hit Hana herself because she's the main win con of the deck, as in that's the direction that they wanted to take Mysteria, so I don't think they were going to kill that strategy necessarily. I thought they were going to hit Mysteria boost followers like Miranda as well as the Black Dragon. I think if they hit those tokens, it would have slowed down the deck so that it doesn't do a turn 4 board flood, but you'd still be able to get a bunch of advantage in the late game.
Yeah, I hear you. I kind of agree with you. I thought for sure that the Wormist would get hit, and the fact that he wasn't was like a huge shock to me. For me, if I was to just change something slightly, I would just like not have done the Ginger nerf. Instruction nerf, I think, was more than enough. That reduces the board flood potential so much, it becomes unviable to have turn 4 multiple Mirandas at that point because you have to spend your entire turn 2 playing a spell that does nothing. I get that Ginger was a good card, but I really didn't think she was the problem. And not only that, Ginger is made to work with all traits, and the fact that she's getting punished for solely Mysteria's sins makes me a little sad.
One
I'm
thing
gonna be honest, I felt mixed about the Ginger nerf too, but I was afraid to admit it. The main reason why I miss Ginger, like I don't like the Ginger nerf, is because I used Ginger way back in the day in Rebirth of Glory to get 1 cost Zeus.
Hell yeah.
It becomes a 1/1 but gets a billion stats in Storm anyway.
The reason why I don't like the Ginger nerf right now is that I wanted to use Ginger to clone my magical bishop and do bishop burn as a meme deck, and now I can't do that anymore.
I feel so
Maybe
sorry
that's for the best.
Chess. One thing to note that's sort of related to the Mysteria deck, the Resurgent card mechanic, really perfect for a card like Hana. If Hana was able to be used in Unlimited,
Oh yeah.
I think Mysteria
Yeah.
might be ruling Unlimited right now.
Or if Arcade Instruction was 1 cost still, that would have been a disaster for Unlimited too.
If it wasn't for the Resurgent restriction, Unlimited Artifact would go ape shit.
I didn't know what to think of them before the expansion. Now that the expansion's out and we've seen the power level of some of these Resurgent cards in rotation, just imagining what they do to Unlimited.
Melts your brain.
You can't imagine what they do.
All right, well, there you go. That's the main topic. Mysteria nerf. Let us know what you think of it. Did it go too far? Not far enough? Would you shoot them with a gun like Mr. Kaelan here? Tell us about it. Moving on to the question of the week. I asked on social media, what is your favorite Resurgent Legends card and why? As I bring those up, I might as well just ask you guys first. What's your favorite Resurgent Legends card?
Worm God. Obviously, it's Worm God. A couple months ago, somebody put out a thread on the subreddit asking what cards people would like to see reprinted or retrained. This was before Resurgent Legends was even announced. I said 3 dragon cards because I'm a cheater. Prime Dragon Keeper, Worm God of the Skies, and Ouroboros. About a month later, Worm God actually got announced. I didn't think she'd be as good as she is.
I don't think anybody could have seen Worm God being as good as she is.
I remember how mad you got with Worm God during
I
the
thought
card
she was
review.
going to be so bad.
Yeah.
I really
same.
did. And I was super wrong.
I was wrong.
I think the thing that makes the deck work is simply the fact that we have 3 more copies of Dragon Oracle because of Dragon Shrine. If it wasn't for that, Worm God would have been poo-poo doo-doo butt cheeks, but because of that, the entire deck is glued together for it. What about you, Tonka? What's your favorite Resurgent Legends card?
Enos, dude, even though I hate Artifact right now,
Yeah?
Enos is such a good card because Enos is the glue that just barely keeps artifact together. That engine was completely unplayable until Enos searched for both of your key combo cards. The fact that she searches for any crystallize or fusion does give her utility in other possible Portalcraft archetypes. You can use Enos in Evo Portal
to pull your
Whoa.
robotic
search
arm
for your
rescuer.
Machina fusion. That's
Yep.
crazy.
Any crystallize, any fusion in the future, you'll always be thinking about Inez as an option, and that's one of the cards that
Yeah,
the
the future, the one more expansion
future.
future.
Yeah, hey, we don't know. Hello, this is Igni from the future again. I just realized after editing this podcast that I never gave my answer. Babs. Just a good stuff card that also happens to synergize. Taking down big threats, reducing their max health, and healing you. Now, some of your answers. I asked on Twitter, YouTube, and Discord what your favorite card from Resurgent Legends is, and we got quite a few responses, alright? This comment comes from Pendulum All Mirage at Pendulum All Mirage, who says, could be anything. And their Twitter bio
could be
says,
Monolith.
rush, fanfare, put a follower from your hand into play, and give it the following effect. At the end of your turn, return this card to your hand. It's just the Pendulum All Mirage effect.
Apparently, Pendulum's actually like she's decent in Seraph and Unlimited.
Because she can bring out the Sarah follower, and then you just cheat it out on 5. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Next up, we have literally a clown who says, Hell's Heartbreaker, solely for the flavor text. You guys know about this?
I did read that text.
Is that the Kakui one?
Yeah,
Yes.
basically she's a
You're
weeb.
so Kakui.
She's canonically a weeb, and when you play her, she says, you're so kakoi Onichan
No,
or something like
no,
that.
dude. You know what she actually is?
What?
She's a succubus that's pretending to be a weeb to lure in the
true.
weebs.
For specifically
like, she-
Shadowverse players.
Because like she has voice lines where she breaks that her act. It's like, oh, I don't like you in that way. Ew.
Maybe she's just acting tsundere, though. You ever thought about that?
she's literally a fake gamer.
Now from Discord, we got a few responses as well. Mock says, Lina, despite the deck falling out of favor now, I like how the deck plays as a control main. I'm a bit sad it can't compete that well with most decks though. Had a lot of fun tinkering with different iterations and ways to turbo Lina in the first week. The 50 damage win con is also just really satisfying to pull off. Hope it gets more support. What do we think about that?
I love Lina, dude. Big Haven is so fun. It's not good, but it's fun.
It's really satisfying, and I think you like it, Tanko, because you're a Calamity guy, and this is basically Calamity
exactly.
I got Grandmaster with Calamity, and I never once got a Calamity kill. Just really disappointed me.
That is disappointing.
I've gotten
People
like
would always quit.
I've had like 2 Calamity kills in my entire life. Speaking as the Portalcraft
Hey,
guy.
why are we talking about Calamity? This is about Big Haven.
Big Haven's alright, I guess.
Why you started reminiscing about a portal deck? I should have known this was gonna happen when Tanko came on the cast.
Also, I love Lina because her OG card was one of those kind of cards where she was so pretty that I tried forcing her into whatever deck I could. She
Yeah.
never did anything, but she was cute.
She had a really funny evolve line where she just starts yelling at you, and I liked that.
Hell yeah.
Another answer from Discord. This is from Weeb, by the way, which is the most generic name. Licorice, Venomous Princess, because the idea of a card coming in with a downside that you can give to your opponent on death is super interesting design. The fact that she's in Forest, which greatly benefits from board management she allows along with the free Evo. The bait and the fact that she can be a body with Sapling Steward in case you can't kill her in a trade. Every aspect of her design fits in nicely with every archetype Forest can play at the moment. Her ability to help deal with these one card instant wins like Barb and Jean really makes me enjoy playing Forest right now.
I agree that Licorice is based, but what Forest decks are playing her right now?
I think some Castel plays her, but it's not an instant include. I understand that it's really good against Jean. That's definitely for sure. And it's good against Barb as well. I also like Licorice. I'll preface that. But the fact that it kills Golem Lord and then they can just res it with air makes me so sad, man. I wish it like transformed the follower and then killed it or something, because that would be awesome.
I just had to read it now for the first time because I had never seen it before. And I don't play Forest. Pretty cool card. Good to see that kind of counterplay where you give your opponent a downside, and that's a pretty big downside unless you're playing Big Dragon.
I've been saying this for a while, but I want more effects like that in Shadowverse. I want more trap effects in Shadowverse where it forces the opponent to like stop and think.
Do you remember
It's like the
Erica's
Erica
amulet?
trap.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
I want more mechanics like that where it's not like a broken trap where it just stops you from playing at all, but it's something where you have to actually stop and consider. You can't just do your quest and just OTK just like that. You have to actually maybe adjust a bit.
I think she's a really cool card card design as well. Finally, from YouTube, we have Sir Umne. Definitely Dark Alice. I missed out on playing Wonderland Dreams back in the day, but even after I came back to the game a while after, I loved Dark Alice's idea and game plan with the neutral package. Been a Shadow main since the start of the game when I played in Darkness Evolved, and the deck just feels incredibly fun, especially because of Alice herself. It is satisfying. Play Alice, have it pop, run it in, make it an amulet again, pop it again with Istandet. Like, it feels like a game of ping pong with yourself.
God, there are so many bad Dark Alice players on Ladder.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane how frequently they won't trade or sacrifice their own ass. I just punish them by either banishing or negating her or something.
Or they like board lock themselves with the Fount of Angels. Then you just sit there and they don't do anything for that turn. Like, that's satisfying to outplay them that way.
I also wasn't here for Wonderland Dreams. So seeing some of the more boomer cards like Alice in a format that I can play is cute, and she's cute, and I have her alt art and it's cute.
If I'm not mistaken, Dark Alice back in Wonderland Dreams, it just simply wasn't played.
Dark Alice did exist, but it was a huge meme deck because you would just use it with Test of Strength.
My favorite thing about this new Dark Alice has to be the alt art because, oh my god, dude.
All right, relax,
Oh
brother.
my god, dude.
This ain't that kind of podcast, all right? You want that? You gotta go to an NSFW website like twitch.tv, okay?
Oh my lord.
And finally, Nowori7886. I would have to say Heaven Scale Dragon. I don't even use it that much, but I always liked its design since I first started playing in Velsar, where Drak buff was running rampant. Yeah, I think the fact that some of the Resurgent cards do invoke some nostalgia is a nice feature for reusing the card art, for sure.
It is cool that they seem to have nostalgia cards from various eras of Shadowverse. Like you have the boomer ages of Dark Alice, middle ages of Lina, Mysteria, and the Zoomers like Heaven Scale.
But I want it to be only cards I find nostalgic, so I think it's bad. No, but for real though, I think it's pretty cool. And Heaven Scale actually is playable, which is nice. It's not amazing. It's not in every buff deck, but you can play it if you like the card, which is, you know, nice to say for a card that's mostly there for nostalgia's sake. So
Apparently Velsar was 3 years ago.
yeah, isn't that messed up?
Yeah.
I don't feel so good.
I actually thought it was longer. I thought it was like 4 years ago. I started playing on Dawnbreak, which is why Twofold is actually my second favorite card. Amaterasu and Tsukiyomi is one of the reasons why I got into this game in the first place.
And a lot of people actually said that it was their favorite card, but I didn't pick any of them. Suck shit. You can submit your answer instead to next week's weekly question. What card do you want them to research the most and why? We'll answer this question as well on next week's episode.
Is this basically going to be like a custom card reaction?
It's more like a selection of the card and why they would want them to do it. Please don't type the effect of what you think it should be.
Don't go that
That'd be
far.
too much work to read through. We are going to be back next week with another episode of Evolve Point. Thank you guys for tuning in to this first comeback episode. After a year and a half, we picked up a whole ass new member, SuchPettanko. So
That's
hopefully
me.
you can find me, Kaelan, and Tanko on Twitter. I'm at Ignideus. Kaelan is at Kaelan_Swan. And Tanko is at SuchPettanko. Everyone here also has a YouTube and Twitch except for Kaelan. Google it. You'll be able to find it. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You know, I was wondering, right? Because Worlds Beyond is coming out, maybe when Worlds Beyond comes out, I rebrand the whole podcast to Super Evolve Point and then like make the logo blue.
Dude, someone in my chat said that.
We should do that.
You should do that.
In June, it's a whole new podcast. We're only back for 6 months before the new game comes out.